She banged on my door so hard it rattled the windows. Before I could even open it, I heard her yelling to someone behind her. "Call the cops! He's refusing to follow HOA rules again!" I stepped outside, confused but calm. Her name was Linda, the self-appointed queen of the Lakeview HOA. Blonde hair tight in a bun, sunglasses on even though it was cloudy, and that smug smile like she owned the whole street. "You can't park your truck here. This driveway belongs to the HOA until you formally move into the community," she said, waving a paper in my face like it was the law. I looked at the document. Fake letterhead, no signatures, just threats. "This is my land," I said, voice low. "I bought it. I have the deed." She laughed. "Maybe in your mind, but around here, I make the rules." Two men in security uniforms stood behind her, not real cops, just guys she paid. One of them held a tow truck hook, ready to take my truck away. My truck had everything I owned inside: clothes, tools, my late father's flag from his service. Linda leaned closer. "You either move into the HOA house we assigned you, or you leave the lake. You don't get to live in that cabin you're building. It isn't approved." I felt anger rising, but I kept my voice steady. "I'm not moving into any house you assign." She smirked and snapped her fingers. "Tow it." One of the fake officers moved toward my truck. I stepped in front of him. He hesitated, but Linda screamed, "Touch him if you have to. He's trespassing on HOA property." That word hit hard. Trespassing. On the land I paid for? On the land my wife and I dreamed of? Sirens suddenly echoed from down the road. Real police this time. Linda's smile only grew wider. "Good, now you're in real trouble." But I stayed still, calm, because I knew something she didn't. As the cruisers pulled in and officers stepped out, Linda pointed at me dramatically. "Arrest him! He's refusing HOA orders!" Everyone looked at me. I didn't say a word. I just reached into my jacket and pulled out my badge. Her mouth froze open. The fake cop stepped back. The real officers stared in shock. I said quietly, "I don't take orders from a fake HOA notice." And for the first time, Linda had no words. The street went silent. Even the wind felt like it stopped when that badge caught the light. I could see her eyes scanning it, hoping it was fake, but it wasn't. Sheriff's Department fully certified. Her lips trembled, but she pushed a smile back on fast like nothing happened. I didn't know you were law enforcement," she said, trying to steady her voice. "You never asked," I replied. One of the real officers, Officer Ramirez, stepped forward. "Sir, is everything all right here?" Before I could speak, Linda jumped in. "No, it's not. He's breaking our HOA housing policy. He refuses to move into the assigned home, he's building some illegal cabin, and he's threatening my safety." I stared at her, stunned by how smoothly the lies came out of her mouth. Ramirez turned to me. "Is that true?" I unlocked my truck and pulled out a folder. Deed papers, county approvals, construction permits, all signed and stamped. Everything is legal. The cabin, the land, all of it, and I never threatened her. She brought fake security and tried to tow my truck. Linda's face tightened when she saw the permits. Still, she stepped closer to Ramirez and whispered, "You don't understand. We run this lake. People like him, they don't belong here." He heard it. I saw his jaw clench. I walked up to Ramirez, calm but firm. "She's been harassing me since the day I got here. Today, she tried impersonating law officers and trespassed on my property." The two fake security guys started inching back toward their truck. They knew this was turning bad. Linda suddenly pointed at my cabin frame near the lake. "That structure is against community aesthetics. I don't care what papers he has, he can't stay in that forest shack." "It's my land," I repeated slowly, "and that shack is my home." She crossed her arms. "Not until I approve it." I looked at her, then at the officers. "You want to see something else?" I asked quietly. Linda frowned. "More fake paperwork?" I shook my head and walked toward the cabin. She followed, still fuming. I reached the porch and pointed at a small camera tucked under the roof beam. Security system, motion sensor, audio, all recorded. I've got every word from today stored right here, I said. Officer Ramirez looked at Linda. Did you know he was recording? She didn't answer. Her face went pale. I tapped the camera lightly, including when you said I don't belong here and when you told those men to touch me. One of the fake officers whispered, "We should go," but it was too late. Linda tried one last move. "You're bluffing. You can't use that against me." I stepped close enough for her to hear every word. "Lady, I don't bluff. I build cases." And that was the first moment she realized this wasn't just a fight over a driveway. This was only the beginning. Linda's hands were shaking now, but she still held her chin high like she owned the whole lake. "Fine," she said, trying to sound calm. "Maybe you have paperwork, maybe you even have that badge, but HOA rules are HOA rules. You're still going to follow them." I leaned against the porch railing, watching her lose control one breath at a time. "You don't make the law," I said, "and you don't control my land." The real officers exchanged looks. Ramirez spoke first. "Ma'am, unless you have legal authority or a valid complaint, you need to leave his property." She stepped toward him, whispering loud enough for all of us to hear. "Do you know who my husband is? He practically funds this department. You really want to side with him over me?" Ramirez didn't flinch. "Ma'am, I'm siding with the law." Her face turned red. She looked like she wanted to scream but couldn't find the right words. The two fake security guards quietly climbed into their truck, and one of them looked at me with guilty eyes before they drove off. Linda pointed at my unfinished cabin again. "This isn't over. That thing breaks HOA design code, and we have a board meeting tonight. You'll be hearing from us." She stormed off, her heels crunching on the gravel like tiny explosions. The real cops nodded politely and left too, but not before Ramirez said, "If she causes more trouble, call me directly." I watched their cars disappear down the road. For a moment, the silence felt peaceful. Then I heard small footsteps behind me. My daughter Lily stood at the doorway of the cabin frame, hugging her stuffed bog. She looked worried. "Dad, are we going to have to leave?" I knelt down and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "No, sweetheart, this is our home. Nobody's taking it from us." She nodded, but I could still see fear in her eyes. As the sun started to set, I got back to work on the wooden beams of the cabin. My hands moved slowly, but my mind was racing. I thought it was over for the day. It wasn't. Around midnight, headlights flashed through the trees. A black SUV rolled up near my driveway. No sirens, no HOA sticker. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out onto the porch frame. The driver door opened. It wasn't Linda. It was her husband. He stepped out in a suit like he'd just walked out of a courtroom. Gray hair, cold smile. "You're making things complicated," he said. "People like you should know when to step back." I didn't move. "People like me?" He looked past me at the cabin, then at the lake. "This land, it's meant for people who understand status." I folded my arms. "And I understand the law." He smirked. "Law can be bought." I didn't blink. "Not from me." He stared at me for a moment, then said, "Tomorrow morning, HOA office. Be there, or things get unpleasant." The SUV door slammed. Gravel scattered under the tires as he drove away. I stood alone in the dark, the weight of his words hanging in the cold air. And deep down, I knew this wasn't just about an HOA anymore. It was about power. Morning light hit the lake like glass when I woke up. I barely slept. My mind kept replaying his words. Law can be bought. Lily was still asleep inside her sleeping bag, so I didn't wake her. I made coffee over the small burner and stared at the empty road, waiting for something to happen. By 9 a.m., I drove to the HOA office like he said. The building looked more like a country club than an office. Stone walls, glass doors, flagpoles. Inside, a long hallway led to a meeting room where voices were already raised. Linda sat at the head of a polished wooden table, her husband beside her, and 5 other board members around. They all turned when I walked in. Some looked curious, some looked annoyed. Linda looked like she'd been waiting to strike. "No badge this time?" she asked with a sharp smile. I ignored the comment and took the empty seat. Her husband leaned forward. "We'll make this simple. You have 1 week to stop building and move into one of the approved HOA houses or leave the lake property." "I own my land," I said calmly. "I have county approval. You don't get to evict me." A woman on the board slid a paper across the table. "This is a violation notice. You're breaking HOA architecture code. Metal roof, non-approved siding, no landscape plan." I looked at the paper. All of it was nonsense. None of it applied to private land outside HOA boundaries. That's when I realized something. They weren't confused. They were pretending my land was part of their HOA. I set the paper down. "You know this doesn't apply to me. My parcel is outside HOA jurisdiction. I checked with the county before I bought it." Linda's smile faded for a split second. Then she leaned forward. "You think a few papers will save you? This whole lake runs on favors. People listen to us. Banks, inspectors, police chiefs." "And what happens," I asked quietly, "when they hear you've been impersonating officers and trespassing?" Her husband's eyes narrowed. His voice dropped. "Careful. Threats don't look good on a badge." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. I just said, "It's not a threat. It's a report. With video." Silence. One of the board members shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Linda suddenly stood. "Get out. Meeting's over." I didn't move right away. I looked around the room and said, "You're making a mistake." Her husband's voice turned icy. "No, you are." I walked out of the building, feeling every stare on my back. The air outside felt heavier than before. When I got home, I found something that made my chest go cold. The cabin door, just a temporary wooden frame, was open. Inside, Lily's drawings that were taped to the wall were ripped down and thrown on the floor. Someone had been inside. My hands shook as I called out, "Lily!" She came running from behind the cabin, breathless. "Dad, I was feeding the ducks. What happened?" I pulled her close, relief flooding through me. But someone wanted to scare us, and they were getting bolder. I picked up one of her drawings from the dirt. On the back, someone had written in black ink, "Last warning. Leave." I stood there in the doorway of the cabin, holding that note, heart pounding. I wasn't scared. I was done being polite. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the cabin porch with my badge on the table, my father's folded flag beside it, and a loaded flashlight in my hand. The lake was quiet. Too quiet. Lily slept inside, curled up with her stuffed dog, unaware of the danger that was crawling closer. I kept replaying the message in my mind. Last warning. Leave. They thought fear would push me away. They didn't know how many nights I spent in sand and dust overseas, how many times I had been told to stand down and didn't. Before sunrise, I made a call. Not to local police, not to Ramirez. I called someone else. "Captain Hayes?" a rough voice answered. "It's me," I said quietly. There was a pause. Then, "You need backup?" "Not yet. Just be ready." He didn't ask questions. He never did. When morning broke, I took Lily to school in town and told her I'd pick her up early. She nodded, trusting me completely. I promised her pancakes later, even though my mind was far from breakfast. Back at the lake, I walked the property, checking every camera, every door latch, every footprint in the dirt. That's when I saw it. Tire tracks leading behind the trees near the lake edge, fresh mud, too close to the cabin. Someone was watching us last night. My phone buzzed, a message from a number I didn't recognize. "HOA emergency meeting tonight, mandatory, 7 p.m. No signature, but I knew who sent it. I spent the day installing 2 more cameras, one hidden in the oak tree facing the driveway and another near the lake dock. I wired them to my laptop, recording everything. By evening, storm clouds rolled in across the water. Thunder growled. I picked up Lily from school and took her to my sister Emma's place in town. "Stay with Aunt Emma tonight," I told her. She grabbed my shirt. "Are you going to be okay?" I smiled softly. "I always am." She didn't let go right away. I hugged her tight, then handed Emma a key. "If I don't call by morning—" Emma shook her head. "Don't say it. Just be careful." Rain started falling as I drove back to the lake. The HOA building glowed in the distance, lights on, cars lined up outside. Something felt wrong. Too many cars. Too quiet. I parked and walked in. The board was there. Linda, her husband, the other members. But this time, they weren't alone. 3 men in dark suits stood behind them. Not police. Not security. Something worse. No badges, no names. Just cold eyes. Linda smiled like a wolf. "Glad you could make it." I stayed near the door. "What is this?" Her husband folded his hands. "A private resolution. No courts, no reports. You walk away from the property, and we make you disappear from this problem." "And if I don't?" I asked. One of the men in suits stepped forward. His voice was low. "Then the cabin won't be the only thing that gets destroyed." For a second, I thought of my daughter's drawings ripped from the wall, of the note, of Lily's small voice asking if we'd have to leave. And something in me snapped, but I didn't show it. I just sighed, reached into my jacket, and placed my phone on the table. The screen was glowing. It was recording. And it was broadcasting live. "To the county sheriff's office," I said quietly. Linda's face went white. "You might control this lake," I whispered, "but you don't control the law." And then thunder cracked so loud it shook the windows. This fight had just gone public. For a moment, no one moved. The only sound was rain hammering against the windows and my phone quietly ticking seconds on the live recording. Linda's eyes darted between me and the screen like she was seeing her future fall apart in real time. Her husband finally spoke, voice low and sharp. "Turn it off." I didn't. One of the suited men reached toward the phone. I stepped in front of it, blocking his hand without even touching him. "Try it," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it was enough. The man hesitated. He wasn't used to someone not being scared. I looked straight at Linda. "So, what were you saying? You'd make me disappear? You'd destroy my cabin?" She swallowed hard. The board members looked terrified now, like they'd never expected this to go beyond their little lake kingdom. Her husband leaned back, trying to regain control. "You can stop this right now. End the stream and we can settle matters privately." "Privately is how people like you stay powerful," I said. "Tonight, everyone sees." And right on cue, my phone buzzed. "Officer Ramirez." "Sheriff's office already saw the feed. Units dispatched." I placed the phone back on the table, letting them see his message. One of the board members stood up. "I didn't agree to any of this. I thought this was just about building codes." Linda shot him a look that could cut glass, but it was too late. The room was falling apart. Sirens echoed in the distance, growing louder. Her husband stood slowly, staring at me with cold anger. "You think you've won because you have a badge and a camera?" I didn't answer. He leaned closer. "You don't understand how many people owe us favors, how many doors we can close." "Maybe," I said, "but not tonight." Blue and red lights flashed through the rain-streaked windows. 2 patrol cars, then 3, then a black SUV I recognized, Captain Hayes. The door swung open. Ramirez entered first, rain dripping from his jacket. Behind him, deputies. Linda tried to speak. "This is a misunderstanding." Ramirez cut her off. "We saw the live stream. Sit down." Her husband raised his hand slightly. "We were negotiating a property dispute." Captain Hayes walked in, slow and steady. He looked at me, then at the board. Negotiations don't include threats or hired muscle on private land. The suited men stepped back, hands up, saying nothing. Linda stood, voice trembling now. "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president. I run this community." Hayes looked straight at her. "No, you abused it." 2 deputies approached her. She stepped back, shaking her head. "Wait, no, you don't understand." But it was over. As they cuffed her, she yelled at me, voice cracking, "You think this is the end? You don't belong here. You never will." I picked up my phone, ended the live stream, and said softly, "This land says otherwise." Her husband didn't scream. He just stared at me with quiet fury as they placed cuffs on him too. As the rain slowed and the thunder faded, I stepped outside. Officers led the board members to cars. The lake looked calm again, like it knew the storm had passed. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the final twist, because nothing this big ends this easily. And I was right. The next morning, the lake was quiet, but the silence felt different. Not peaceful, waiting. I dropped Lily off at school, trying to act normal. She smiled again, thinking everything was over. I wanted to believe that too. But when I drove back to the property, a black sedan was parked by the gate. Not police, federal plates. Two men in suits stepped out, real ones this time, badges out before I could even speak. "Sheriff," the taller one said, "Special Investigations Division." My stomach tightened. This about last night? The second agent glanced at the cabin, then at my land. "Partly, we're here about the HOA and about you." I didn't like the sound of that. They showed me documents, complaints, financial trails, a list of names. Turns out Linda and her husband were part of something bigger. Money laundering, property scams, bribing local officials. My live stream just cracked open a door the feds had been watching for months. "You helped us," the agent said, "but now you're part of it." I raised a brow. "Part of what?" He looked straight at me. "The case. You'll need to testify." I glanced back at my half-built cabin, wet wood still glistening from the storm. Fine, whatever it takes. But the agent didn't leave. He lowered his voice. "There's one more thing. The land you're on, it's legally yours, but someone tried to buy the property records yesterday. Cash offer. Huge." "Who?" He handed me a name on a paper. It wasn't Linda. It was her husband's brother. A developer. A man known for turning land like mine into private luxury resorts. And he wasn't in handcuffs. Not yet. The agents left, tires crunching down the wet gravel road. I stood there, holding that paper, heart pounding again. That afternoon, I picked Lily up early. We sat on the cabin steps, watching the lake shimmer under the cloudy sky. I didn't want to scare her, but I also wouldn't lie. "There might be more people coming after this," I said quietly. She looked at me with those brave little eyes. "Are we leaving?" I shook my head. "No, but we might have to fight a little longer." She took my hand and whispered, "Then we won't lose." Before I could answer, a white truck pulled up near the trees. My sister Emma stepped out, arms crossed. "Heard about the arrests, thought you might need help." Behind her came two more people, old friends from the unit, people I trusted with my life. One of them, Cole, grinned. "Heard someone's messing with your land. Thought we'd build that cabin faster." For the first time in days, I felt something like hope. As the sun dipped behind the trees, hammers started hitting nails, wood being lifted, walls rising. Real people, real strength. But just when things felt steady again, my phone buzzed. A message. No name, no number, just 5 words. "You should have taken the deal." I stared at the screen, breath cold. The fight wasn't over. It was just changing. Night crept over the lake as we worked under lantern light, raising the last beams of the cabin. The smell of fresh wood mixed with the cool wind from the water. Lily sat by the fire with Emma, drawing new pictures, this time of the cabin fully built, smoke rising from the chimney, our dog running in the grass. I wanted that picture to be real. Cole hammered the last nail and stepped back. "Cabin standin', strong frame, stormproof." "People-proof?" I asked with a half-smile. He gave a quiet nod. "That too." But I still felt that message burning in my pocket. You should have taken the deal. Someone was watching us, waiting. Just after midnight, headlights appeared down the dirt road. Same black SUV from days before, but this time it didn't stop at the gate. It drove straight through it. Wood splintered, tires skidded. Emma grabbed Lily and moved her inside the cabin. Cole and the others stood beside me. The SUV stopped inches from us. Doors opened. 3 men stepped out, dark suits, cold eyes. One of them I recognized from the HOA meeting, the one who didn't talk. He looked around at the land, the cabin, my friends. Then he spoke. My brother and his wife might be in jail, but this land was promised to us. You can still walk away. No one has to get hurt. I stepped forward. This is my land, my home. You don't own it. Not by law, not by fear. His jaw tightened. Rain started to fall again, slow and heavy. He nodded to the other men. They moved closer. Before anything could happen, a voice came from the trees. That's far enough. Flashlights flicked on. More figures stepped out. Deputy Ramirez, Captain Hayes, and 2 other officers. Their cars were blocking the road behind. The man in the suit froze. "You're making a mistake." Hayes stepped beside me, eyes steady. "No, you are." The men backed up, but Hayes wasn't finished. He pointed at the trees. A drone buzzed above, red light blinking. "Everything's being recorded," he said. "You take one more step on this land, and it won't be an HOA problem. It'll be federal." For a moment, no one breathed. Then the man slowly raised his hands. "This isn't over," he said quietly. I stepped closer, rain dripping from my hat. "It is for tonight." They got back in the SUV and drove off, tires spinning mud. The officers stayed until the road was clear again. Ramirez looked at me. "We'll keep patrol by your land for a while, just in case." Hayes gave a small smile. "You did good, Sheriff." I exhaled slowly. "It's not about winning. It's about keeping my family safe." He nodded. "That's why you deserve this land more than any of them." When they left, the rain softened. The lake went still. I walked back to the cabin. Lily was waiting by the door, sleepy eyes blinking. "Are we safe now?" I crouched down, brushing rain from her hair. "Yeah," I whispered. "We're safe, and we're staying." She smiled and hugged me tight. I looked out at the lake, at the land my wife and I chose before she passed, at the cabin we built with our own hands, and I felt it. Peace. Not because the fight was over, but because I knew no matter what came next, I didn't fight for this country just to be told I can't live on my own land. The cabin light glowed behind me. Lily's drawings were back on the wall. And for the first time since we got here, it felt like home.